Okay, so I think we're live now. Hello, guys. Good afternoon. So welcome for our first session, first IEEE Know-How series webinar for today. We will have the presentation with Dr. Prithal Singh, Javier Kizo, and Natalie Sanchez about a very incredible project they have developed in Region 9. So I'll let the word to Luisa Araújo, our section ambassador for the HAC, to introduce our speakers and let you with the presentation, okay? So Luisa, your turn.
Thank you, Matheus. Hello, everyone. My name is Luisa. I am the IEEE-HAC ambassador for the Northeast section. Today, we will begin our presentation of the IEEE Know-How series on HAC projects with the lecture about the project Expansion of a Community Intranet to Share Sustainable Education Resource on the Galápagos Island. Presenting the project, we have Dr. Prithal Singh, Javier Urquizo, and Natalie Sanchez. Dr. Prithal Singh is a professor of electrical engineer at Villanova University. He has developed a telehealth project in several locations in Nicaragua, supervised students from Villanova and Universidad Nacional de Ingeniería in Nicaragua on humanitarian engineering projects, and has worked with UNICEF in Nicaragua, Burundi, and Zimbabwe. Dr. Singh served as the IEEE Special Interest Group for Humanitarian Technology Site Education Community Share from 2017 to 2019, and is currently chair of the Assessment Training Ad Hoc Subcommittee of IEEE Site. He is also the technical chair for the 2020 IEEE Global Humanitarian Technology Conference. Javier Urquizo received his bachelor degree in telematics engineering from Expansão University in Ecuador, and his master degree in renewable engineering in Newcastle University in United Kingdom. He is currently a PhD candidate at Villanova University, supervised by Dr. Prithal Singh, and he has been an IEEE graduate student member and PES member since 2017, and has been involved in IEEE Site and IEEE HAC projects in Ecuador and Guatemala, focusing on education, connectivity, and energy access. Natalie Sanchez is pursuing her master's degree in biomedical engineering at Chalmers University of Technology in Gothenburg, Sweden. She has worked in different communities of Ecuador in outreach programs, developing projects funded by IEEE HAC and Site. She is currently the mentor of IEEE Site ESPOL student branch and is part of HAC Projects Committee of 2020. Now we will start the presentation. Anyone who has any questions during the presentation can write on the YouTube chat, and at the end of the presentation we will have a moment for these questions to be answered, and I will read them to the speakers. Dr. Singh, you can start.
Okay, so we'd like to share the screen, and Javier is going to share the screen with the slides, if we may. Perfect, and if you could put it into presenter mode, please, Javier. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this HAC session. And I'm very pleased to be here to report on some project work that we've done working in the Galapagos, but also to give you more of an idea of the opportunities with HAC. So next slide, please. So let's begin. As we know, HAC stands for Humanitarian Activities Committee. And so let's just review what we mean by humanitarian engineering. It's really the engineering for improving the human condition and particularly to serve underserved communities. So examples include healthcare, energy, water and sanitation, education, food security, safety and protection, disaster and/or humanitarian relief, and climate change impact. So this particular project is focused on education and will be, and all of these different areas fall under the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we could go to the next slide, please. So there are 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. The first one, of course, is ending poverty. And then we have different ones like ending hunger, quality education, affordable and clean energy access, water and sanitation. So there are 17 total goals. And when you're developing a project for HAC funding request, you have to look at these goals and center a project around at least one of these goals. So the project that we're going to present now is centered around quality education, which is UN Sustainable Development Goal 4. So now I'll turn it over to Javier, who will talk about the first aspect of the project, and then Natalie will follow from there.
Thank you, Pali. Now I'm going to be presenting on the Galapagos Community Intranet project, which we received funding from HAC to develop. So I'm going to start introducing about the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are a very well-known tourist location, worldwide known tourist location, and they're located 1,000 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador to the east. And as I said before, they're one of the top ecological destinations worldwide, although we can't travel right now, but it's very, very well known. One of the challenges we have in Ecuador and in several countries around the world as remote communities lack universal access to ICTs or internet connectivity. So currently there's no submarine cable connection from the mainland in Ecuador to the Galapagos Islands. So that hinders a lot of the connectivity and communication opportunities that the community members in the Galapagos can have access to. So currently, local telecommunication operators provide internet access through the O3B network, which is satellite communication, which in addition to being expensive, provides additional challenges in terms of bandwidth and access to the internet. So we know that access to the internet is limited, it's slow, and it's expensive. But not only that, but the lack of access to the internet limits access to different sectors. One of those is education, as there are no physical libraries in San Cristobal, which is one of the main, or the island where the capital of the Galapagos Islands is located, Puerto Vaquerizo Moreno. So not having access to physical libraries and these online resources has had a great impact in education, which has been more apparent now with the COVID pandemic. So back when this project started in 2018 or January 2019, a community intranet was considered to improve the resources for education on the Galapagos Islands. And one of the first things we did, one of the most important things, is to try to engage with the different stakeholders to see what type of interest, what are their needs, and most importantly, they're going to be taking care of the project once we're no longer interacting with it. So it's very important to interact and engage with the different key stakeholders. So here are the main ones, and I'm going to go over each one. So the first one is SEGREG, which is el Consejo de Gobierno del Régimen Especial de Galápagos, which is the maximum authority in the Galapagos, other than the President of Ecuador. The second stakeholder is the Ministry of Education, which, as we're working on this project with education as its main goal, it's very important to interact with the Ministry of Education and make sure that we align with their objectives. The third key stakeholder is Galapagos Conservancy, which is an NGO which is developing an educational program to train teachers on the islands. So interacting with them and understanding what their needs are is very important, as they can use this platform for their programs as well. Teachers and students are, I would say, one of the most important key stakeholders, because they're going to be the end users of the system. So interacting with them and understanding their needs and making sure they know how to use the system was one of the most important things we need to focus on. And then IEEE, ESPO, which is a university located in Ecuador, Villanova University, which is located in Philadelphia, or in the suburbs of Philadelphia area, and Beyond Shakai Foundation, which is an NGO that's been developing projects training students in the Galapagos Islands for several years. So all of these players are very important in bridging the gap between all the end users, the stakeholders that are going to use the system, and the technology that's going to be installed. And that's why I left the remaining two stakeholders in the end, like Galapagos, which is the electric utility in the islands, and iPhoton Corp, which is a private communications company which installs internet services on the island, as well as TV services. So those are the technical stakeholders which are going to interact with us to try to bridge the gap for internet access for education on the islands. So as I said before, what was proposed was a community intranet project. You can think of it as a education or learning platform or network where you can have different number of resources that can be accessed by the community. So you can see on the right how the system was developed, and it was mostly developed by student volunteers. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit further. So in January 2019, the COIN, or Community Intranet System, was installed to provide access to educational resources to schools in San Cristobal initially. As I said before, is the island where most of the main government offices are. So the COIN system uses a load-bearing client-server model over a combination of fiber optic network and wireless communications for the last mile to provide access to this network. So you can see in the picture on the top right how we have connected. The bottom locations are 5 schools in San Cristobal and the office of the Ministry of Education. And you can see that the top building there is the initially a building where we house the main servers, which are then connected to the schools through fiber optic cable. And inside the schools, access to the systems was provided through wireless communication. The services are initially hosted on Model 3 Raspberry Pis. So the cost of the implementation was very low, as well as being reliable and providing access to different services, which I'm going to expand in a few minutes. The memory capacity varies between 32 gigabytes and 128 gigabytes for some of the services that were provided. And you can see the pictures on the Raspberry Pis on the bottom right, and the students installing the system on the bottom left. So some of the services that are provided in this community intranet platform are, you can see on the top left how the system looks right now, and you can see the landing page, as well as some of the resource communications, educational resources, news and blogs services that are provided to the system. On the top right, you can see some of the documents and resources that educational resources that we've located, and you can see information on leadership and Galapagos examples of homework assignments and languages and math and different subjects that the teachers can use to teach their classes. In addition to that, most recently we've installed services for public health and COVID pandemic, and some of the main things that you can do or guidelines to follow to try to prevent, at least in this time where that's the reality we all live. On the bottom left, you can see one of the most important services we installed earlier this year, which is the telecommunications service or video conferencing service, which allows for remote classes, especially in this time where they can't meet physically. It allows for communication between schools and communication between teachers to provide remote access to different educational services. Additional services that were installed are private directories for each school. As I said before, health information related to COVID-19. We also have an interactive map, calendar, and blog for different events on the island, as well as the DNS server. So it's easier to remember the names of the sites instead of having to remember the IP address. One of the most important parts of the project as well, as I said before, is to engage with the stakeholders. And they are going to be the main users and the persons that are going to be carrying the project forward. So for us, it is very important to have workshops where we can train not only the teachers, but also the students in how to use the system. And that way it'll be easier to transition to when they have to manage it, as well as they're going to be using it much more effectively. So student volunteer teams from Villanova University and ESPO deliver workshops to the students and teachers in the Galápagos Islands, and you can see some of the pictures of the workshops that we developed in different times. Students on the islands can become inspired to pursue careers in the STEM areas, as well as getting inspired from students to pursue different business or different technical degrees. Some of the topics for the workshop that we have covered are the intranet itself, the system, as well as web design, local area network games without accessing the internet, and the Arduino microcontroller, as you can see in the picture in the bottom there, as well as other topics that were of interest for the community. Some of the lessons that we've learned through this project are that stakeholder engagement has been paramount. It's very important for the development of different current and future initiatives in this area. As I said before, they're going to be the end users, so they should be as involved as possible, not only in the use of the system, but as well as in the design or co-design of the system. Interactive hands-on activities can motivate and inspire community members to participate and engage with their families in achieving the goals they set to accomplish. As I said before, students can be inspired by the workshops, and in particular, as we had female engineer-led workshops, a lot of the female students participating in these workshops were very inspired to pursue STEM careers, and that's some of the things that I take as the most important goals that were achieved in this project so far. The COVID-19 pandemic has shed light on different challenges for education in the Galápagos, particularly due to the lack of internet access and connectivity. And not only that, but also lack of access to online devices, or to devices that provide them access to online resources such as computers, laptops, tablets. They don't really have access to those devices. So it's also preventing them or it's causing them challenges to connect to the available resources. So the implementation of the community intranet and internet or inter-island links, because now we're expanding not only to San Cristobal, but we've already reached Santa Cruz, which is one of the most populated island in the Galápagos Island. So we're now trying to reach a larger community. So the implementation of this system and inter-island links can bridge the gap in connectivity access to improve the quality of education and to promote community development training programs, as we're going to be talking a little later when Natalie presents. So some of the future and ongoing work that we're doing in this project, as I said, we're working on internet expansion and inter-island links. So we're expanding to this most populated island, which is Santa Cruz, but we're also considering the 2 remaining islands, Isabela and Floriana, so we can bridge the gap in connectivity access to improve quality of education. One of our goals is to close the digital divide, and this is being achieved by laying the foundations for the development of and support of future digital literacy programs aimed at engaging with key stakeholders in the Galapagos Islands to co-develop technical and technological solutions to achieve sustainability and conservation goals, which Natalie is going to describe a little further. And finally, we right now are in the process of installing Wi-Fi access points, which are going to be used to provide or to expand the network access using Wi-Fi connectivity to reach a community and promote community development training programs. So at the moment, we only have access to the system inside the schools, but by installing these Wi-Fi access points, we hope to reach the community and a larger community and be able to provide and promote community development training programs. So I think that's all that I have for now, and Natalie is going to continue with the digital literacy program.
Yes, thank you, Javier. Yeah, my part now for me to explain to you is the digital literacy program that it's been called Programa de Jóvenes Líderes Digitales. So it's aimed to the kids around 15 to 18 years old. So that's why it's called from Jóvenes. And we aim to the technology. I don't know, Javier, if you can change the slide, but what we want to develop there, or why do we attack this part, is majorly focused on the COVID situation. So the digital literacy program was a COVID response. So this was due to the pandemic and everything. We thought that we may do something to help them going through all these situations. So these major difficulties that they've been facing in the tourism and in the education, we are trying to attack those parts. And also because we know that because of what Javier was saying, we know that because of the lack of connectivity and resources that they have, including some trainers and obviously the access of internet and the access to computers, also we have focused on improving the quality of the education. So that's why Dr. Sin was explaining you before. We are focusing on the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, that is quality education. And then we chose 23 students of San Cristobal and San Cristobal to participate in this program. Then next slide, please. Okay, so we need to consider some aspects. The aspects that we were focused on were establishing this baseline of the technical knowledge they have, because it's like we got together this amount of people, but we didn't know what were the technical skills. So we needed to do some kind of a survey that you can see in the slide. So this survey was sent to all of the people that were interested in participating in the program. And they needed to fill out something like how comfortable they feel like with a shared document or with going to social media or stuff like that. So with that, we are like trying to make a content as even as we could. So we did that at the beginning. Then we needed to consider also the low bandwidth that they had. So when we were developing the program, we needed to take in consideration that the amount of multimedia information needed to be reduced, because they were not going to be able to watch it like we can do it like right now. Other thing that we needed to consider is the use of appropriate these pedagogical techniques. So they're still kids, so we cannot teach them like they are adults or something. So we needed to make or develop something that will keep them engaged and paying attention to what we are saying. So we needed to take that in consideration too. And for the content, we were based on the DQ framework from the DQ Institute that you can see in the slide also. You can check that up because they are being focusing on digital literacy itself. So since the program has the same name, and it was also like a suggestion from IEEE that we use the things that are already available for us, so we don't have to start from zero. The only thing that we needed to do was trying to take that information that was originally in English, and since this is being developed in Galápagos Islands, then it is taught in Spanish. So we needed to take that information, translate it, or maybe try to create a bit, or try to like play around with different tools that we have found in the course. So that's what we have been done. Javier, the next slide, please. Okay, then, so which content are we covering in here? Well, we have digital identity, healthy use of technology. I think we thought that this could be very important for them to really know about not only use technology, okay, so they can start doing more things online and everything, but they need to know what is healthy and what it isn't, and what isn't healthy. So it is important for us that they have that difference. Then we also taught them about online communication and collaboration, content creation, and I think this was a very interesting topic for them, because since Galapagos Islands is very known for their tourism, then we needed to approach to them with something that they could use later on. Not only like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to use a shared document or something like that, but you can also think about it to create a landing page or a web page for their own businesses, because that is the thing that it's making their economy grow. So maybe they can later on be start doing something to help their businesses. Obviously, we are also focusing on sustainability. We all know that Galapagos Island is known by the beautiful places and the fauna there is all over there. So that's why we also include a topic that's called technology and sustainability. And finally, well, given the recent events that right now we are all facing through the internet, we also needed to make sure that these kids will be able to identify all the cyber risks that there are, like we cannot avoid, that in some point they will be facing some kind of difficulties. So they need to know about this, like behavioral risk and also personal cybersecurity. So in the activities that we have done with them, in the next slide, we have included things like Google does them. Okay, so before that, let me focus on how we developed this program. So the development of this program was made, you can change the slide, Javier, please. Yeah, so this was made in small groups of 3 people, or 2 to 3 people with 1 mentor. And this mentor, what were their tasks? Their main task was giving them motivation, then guidance and giving the resources, listen to them. But I think the most important thing was the motivation, because we weren't there to like be teachers or something like that. But okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, we're not here to be teachers or something like that. We are here to guide them. So that's what we are focusing right now. So that's why their main task is motivation, like trying to make them do or complete all the activities and so on. And since the internet was not very good in there, we tried to manage different channels of communication. So we have Zoom, as you can see in the picture, but we also created a Facebook group, so we can post there like images or the videos that we are using for that week. And we are also like doing shout outs and stuff like that to keep them motivated. So that's one thing. We also use WhatsApp to communicate between the mentor and the mentees. So I think in Ecuador we have that WhatsApp is a bit more covered by the mobile companies. So that's why we thought about that. So in the next slide, Javier, we can see all the activities that we, not all of them, but the most important activities that we have done with them, that it's create their own curriculum. So that I think that for these kids on these ages is really important to start on developing their curriculum. It's going to be very good for them when they start to work and they finish high school. Then, of course, Google yourself. That's why digital identity is, so they know that they are living some kind of track in the network, so they be aware of what they are sharing. So that's really important. Because of the trends of the moment, is like create a meme related to actual topics and related to Galapagos Island and so on, so they can be interested, it can be fun, and they can also like engage with the activities. We have created their website, and then later on I will show you one of the websites that they have done. Find sustainable development sites on social media. We know that there are a lot of places right now that are aware of the sustainable development goals and how we can contribute to sustainability. So they can also calculate the carbon footprint, and this was a nice activity because they could know how many earth do you need if you want to keep on living the way you live. So I think this was pretty shocking and pretty important, because they right now know that they need to do something, and they need to change something in order to like contribute to the planet itself. Then they also have some other activities like create their own strong password, so they can know how to do it, recognize cyberbullying, avoiding them, obviously, knowing about digital empathy, what is sextortion, harassment that is going on online, and so on. So like I was saying, I think these are pretty important topics for them. So that's why we included them. And finally, what is the algorithm that is being used? We all know, and maybe we have all watched the movie of Netflix that was talking about the algorithm and so on. So they can be aware that what is this algorithm doing and how it can deviate your attention to only think about your mobile phone, your social media, and so on, and use it wisely. So these were some of the activities that we did. And next slide, Javier, please. Okay, so there is the results that we had. They have created some kind of web page. This is some service that this girl wanted to do, like paint the faces of the kids. So she wanted to promote that kind of services. And also she creates some kind of a slide, landing page, or I don't know how to call it, but it was really important. It was really interesting because you may see this as very simple, but for them it wasn't. It wasn't that simple because they didn't have the tools or the resources to learn how to do this. So when we see what they could achieve and with the guidance that we can give them, then we were really excited about seeing these results. In the next slide, I put something. So there is, like I was saying, 2.4 Earth that you need if you want to keep on living the way you live. Here are some of the memes that they did, related to Galápagos, related to their community, because this meme, like, we may not understand it. I don't really know who is El Chino, but for them is funny and it's important. So I think that with these activities, they keep on engaged, and they were motivated to do that because it was like theirs, so they liked it. Okay, so next slide. Yeah, so I think that's it for me. Dr. Pali,
Okay, so we'd like to wrap up in the next few minutes with a discussion about the opportunities for getting funding and how to write a good proposal. So next slide, please. So there are several mechanisms and opportunities for getting funding through HAC. There's the projects grant, which relatively large grants, $20,000 to $60,000 per project. And the first project that Javier described, setting up the infrastructure for connectivity on the islands, we got funded through an HAC projects grant. You can have HAC events grant for hosting, a conference like this, or conference participation. If you want to participate in a conference, you can apply for some funding for that. And then you can also apply for smaller projects through the SITE program, which is comes under the HAC umbrella, and that's up to $20,000 of funding. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through the details of this slide. This is basically just showing you whether your project falls under HAC or SITE as a potential consideration for funding. So we're going to share these slides with you, and you can look at this in more detail later. Next slide. All right, so I wanted to spend a few minutes giving you some hints and tips for writing a good HAC proposal. So first tip. So the first thing, as Javier and Natalie both very well shared, is that you need to be engaged with the local community, with local stakeholders, to ensure that whatever you're developing is contextually appropriate, and even better if you're doing a co-design with the local community to make sure that the project is sustainable over the long term. So that's a very important element, and you can get funding just to explore opportunities with the working with the community. Next slide, please. Sorry, next bullet. Make sure that you're addressing at least one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. When you're writing a proposal, the proposal will ask you which UN Sustainable Development Goals you're considering for your project, and so you need to be centered around at least one of those goals. Next slide. No bullet. Make sure that the project falls within the scope of a HAC or SITE project, and so the previous slide mapped out which ones work and which ones don't work. Next slide. All right, it's very important for a good HAC proposal to have a good monitoring and evaluation plan. And it's important because you have to monitor how well your project has progressed, and then evaluate that and report on your monitoring and evaluation. So I'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. Next slide, bullet. Make sure that you have a good project management plan. So you need to have a good structure, you need to have volunteers, make sure that they're assigned with tasks, and a good way of running the project and managing the project. Next bullet. Make sure that you have a good budget. It's important to understand what the costs of doing the project are and coming up with a good budget for the project. Next bullet. Make sure that you have a good set of volunteers ready to work on the project. We've been very fortunate in that we've recruited some very good volunteers for the work we've been doing. And that's essential to have a successful project. Next bullet. And finally, the proposal should be written in good English. Some of the reviewers are not fluent in other languages, and so they need to be able to read the proposal and understand it. So it needs to be written in good English. So these are just some hints and tips for writing a good HAC proposal. Next slide, please. There are resources that you can refer to. There's an IEEE site, digital classroom, with webinars on different topics, including monitoring, evaluation, project management, budgeting, and so on. So take advantage of these resources to help you understand topics that you may not be very familiar with regarding different aspects of HAC projects. Next slide. And so these were the original 2020 deadlines for applying for project funding. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, things changed. What happened was that HAC and SITE got together, and the last two deadlines were changed to much smaller grants, up to $5,000, for projects that addressed issues related to the effect of COVID-19. And so the project that we got funding for the IEEE Site Digital Literacy Program that Natalie described, that actually came under that COVID-19 response, trying to bridge the digital divide. So I'm hopeful next year that there will be new rounds of funding for the full project funding. But you can go to the website and see that information that I've shown here, and also the HAC and SITE online funding platform is where you have to put in your proposal. So these deadlines were last year's deadlines, and I'm expecting next year the deadlines will be very similar. Okay, next slide, please. So with that, we'd like to conclude our presentation and now open it up for questions. And thank you so much for your attention and for the invitation for us to present at this conference.
Thank you for your presentation. It was a very good project. Now, if anyone has any questions, you can send to the YouTube chat, and I will read them. I have a question for you. How did you get in touch with this particular community? And how was the prospecting of this community done?
So we worked with Dr. David Lansdale, who is an emeritus professor from Universidad de San Francisco de Quito, and they had a branch campus on San Cristobal Island, and through him we made the connection to the Galapagos Islands. He's been working there for about 7 or 8 years, and so he really was our main point of contact, who introduced us to the islands, and we've been working in collaboration with him.
Okay, and do you have a long-term planning to accompany the solutions installed in the community?
So maybe Javier or Natalie can respond to that question.
Yeah, so I would say we're working on a staged approach. We're going phase by phase. Right now, we're, as I said, working on the phase of trying to expand the project, and hopefully once we've accomplished the goal of connecting all the Galapagos Islands, we can work with the stakeholders so they can carry on with the project after we've completed or finished with it. So I think if we work or if you plan to work on a phased approach, trying to reach certain milestones as you go along, then you'll have a greater chance of success with your project.
I do also want to point out another important element of our project is, I'm a professor at Villanova University in the United States, but we work very closely with ESPOL, and I met Natalie just over a year ago, maybe a year and a few months ago, and she was very eager to work with us, and she's been a great supporter of the program. But in general, we've had very good relationship with ESPOL, and they've been also very central to the program development that we've been doing.
Okay, and Javier mentioned that you guys have a few female engineers involved in this project, and that is a motivational factor for the girls participating. And I see that IEEE is promoting women engineer with we and this projects in every society. Do you think that partnering with a we project putting we in your project would be a good factor for a good proposal?
I think, and Natalie can also talk to this, because when I talked about the female engineers, I was talking about Natalie, and she did a wonderful job with the workshop, and I think it was her great explanations and interactions with the students were the thing that motivated a lot of the female students, as well as the female teachers, to be very interested in this. So maybe she can span a little bit on that. But what I can say is, in all of the projects that we've worked, we've tried to keep a gender balance, trying to have the people that are presenting and working on the projects to be male and female, as well as trying to have the students work keep that gender and age balance wherever possible. So we are very supportive of that, and I'm sure that if we would to partner with we or other branches of IEEE, it would be a very productive partnership. So Natalie, I don't know if you want to add a little bit more to that.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Like Javier was saying, when we were developing these workshops in January this year, it was completely amazing to see all these female students that were there and were so interested in learning this. So I was really inspired by them when they approached me at the end of the workshop, and they say things like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm an engineer and I teach at SPOL. And they were like, okay, I want to be an engineer too. So it was really inspiring for me to see the effect that this caused. Like, I went there to teach some Arduino or give some Arduino classes, but I didn't realize the impact that this will be to them. So that's also really important for me. And when Javier was explaining that we are trying to keep the gender equality or the gender balance, yeah, actually our mentors, because we have 7 mentors right now for the digital literacy program. 4 of them are females and 3 are males. So we try to keep it always in a balance. So yeah, I think that's really important.
I'd also like to add to that not only Natalie was there, but also another student, Karen, was also part of the workshops, and she's one of the mentors now in our digital literacy program. The other thing is we were so moved because one of the teachers at the school in Santa Cruz where we were doing a workshop, she came to the front of the class after the presentations, the wonderful work that Natalie and Karen and other students presented. And she herself spoke to the female students in the class and said, look at these examples, and you could also be engineers like these 2 ladies here. So she was really moved and inspired and shared that with the students. So it was really very good to see that.
Very nice. Mateo sent a question for the most relevant personal learnings and experience you had by implementing the project.
Okay, I can go first because I was already kind of talking about this, and these were my personal learnings. Like I was saying, it was really amazing to see all these people not interested in Arduino itself, but interested in going beyond that. So it was really a touching moment. It was really excited to see that. So yeah, I don't know, Javier, you can add something about how did you feel with the intranet?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit. For me, it's been a wonderful experience just because I'm here in the U.S. doing my PhD, and to be able to contribute to so close to home. I'm an Ecuadorian, so to be able to contribute to a project like this, it's amazing, and to be able to work with people and being the bridge between people working on Villanova, people working on ESPOL. So that's been amazing. But also, if there's students in the audience, I think. One of the most important things is that these type of opportunities allow you to leverage all your skills and knowledge. I did my undergrad in telecommunications or telematics. I did my master's in renewable energy. So I've been able to use all the different tools that I've learned so far in the different projects. So I think it's very one of the key or beauty of this project is it allows you to meet people, to help different communities, and to expand your skills and knowledge also. And it's very rewarding to be able to be doing this. So I encourage you to look for someone if you want to ask us or connect with other people, and you can only be very not accomplished, but satisfied with all the things you do in this type of projects in the end.
If I could just add a comment as well, I've been working in such projects for about 10 years now. And one of the things I found is that our students at Villanova, the students at ESPOL, the students wherever they are, they have a common culture, whether it's music or, the movies and books and things like that. So there's a wonderful relationship that builds up. And as both Javier and Natalie said, you develop this personal fulfillment, but at the same time, there's a good communication. And one of the things that I think that the students learn out of this type of project is how fortunate they are with the resources that they have, and how they can work with people who are less fortunate, not because they're not capable, but because they don't have the opportunity. So it's that's an important element in all HEC projects or site projects as well.
Fernanda sent a question. She said, what a great project and very useful presentation. And she would like to know how likely it is to replicate the project in other regions, and if it is allowed applying it for funding with a similar proposal.
So maybe I can address that question. So I've been involved with other site projects as well as working with other groups. So I worked in Nicaragua and Guatemala, and as you mentioned at the beginning, with UNICEF. So when you look at the COVID-19 projects that were funded this past year, many of them were similar. And in fact, what they've done is they've formed communities of practice to group together similar projects. So there are projects around education, there are projects around medical devices and so on. So they've created these communities of practice so that people learn from one another. So I think absolutely, if you're interested in developing a project similar to what we've reported, please do so. And if you want any support or help or guidance, we're more than happy to help.
Okay, that's it for the questions. Thank you Dr. Singh, Javier, and Natalie for your presentation today and for sharing your experience with your amazing project. Today we have another presentation at 4. Mateus can say a little bit more about it.
Okay, so now I just want to thank you everyone for attending in this webinar, also for Dr. Singh, to Natalie and Javier, as also for making yourself available in participating and showing your experiences for everyone, to also incentivize more HSC projects, more humanitarian projects here in Region 9. So next we'll have in, I guess, 1 hour, yes, the Towards a Smart Village project in the Huayu Indians in Guajira. So it's a humanitarian project in Colombia, and I also invite the three of you, Dr. Singh, Dr. Javier, and Natalie, for attending and participating also in this next webinar. So thank you guys for making yourself available, and hope you enjoyed the experience.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us, and we're, as I said, ready to help and wish you lots of good luck in the projects that you decide to move forward with.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so I guess we can end now the live sessions.
Okay. Bye, everybody.